Turn it to show the audience the stuff and go back. That's good. Realign it.
Thank you everybody for being here. My name is Tabitha Ott. I'm the Executive Director here at 701 CCA. If we didn't get your zip code, by the way, on your way out, if you could sign, it's on the desk right outside the door, and just put your zip code down. So I'm just going to introduce Rashad Glover, and then also Dr. Nancy Colson, who's our moderator tonight. Rashad Glover's educational journey spans several prestigious institutions across the United States. He began his studies at the Governor's School for the Arts in Greenville, South Carolina, before continuing at the New Orleans Center for Creative Arts in New Orleans, Louisiana, where he received his high school diploma. He then attended Xavier University in Louisiana, followed by Tufts University School of the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, Massachusetts, where he earned a studio diploma. He completed his academic journey by obtaining an MFA from Yale University School of Art in New Haven, Connecticut. As a conceptual artist, Glover works with a range of media, and his work has been featured in a variety of publications and exhibitions. You can read more about him on our website. This is an abbreviated version. He shared his expertise in numerous educational roles throughout his career. He's taught at Clapham University, which is where I know Rashad from years past. Served as a computing specialist at the Yale University Digital Media Center for the Arts, and is currently a professor of graphic design and visual art at Holyoke Community College in Holyoke, Massachusetts. He resides in East Hampton, Massachusetts, and is represented by the George Gallery in Charleston, South Carolina. He's currently in residence here in the gallery for the whole month of July, and he's hosting a workshop on Sunday. So if you would like to attend that, there's tickets on our website. And now I'll just tell you a bit about Nancy. So we're pleased to have educator and author Dr. Nancy Tolson as our moderator tonight. She received her master's and PhD from the University of Iowa and has been a Ford Fellow, an NEH facilitator, as well as a Fulbright Scholar lecturer at the University of Cape Coast in Ghana, while conducting research on West African folklore. She is also a commissioner for the Columbia Museum of Art, as well as an active docent there. So thank you, Nancy, for being with us tonight. And next up, I'm just going to do two more announcements and then we're going to get started. So next up in the gallery after Rashad leaves is the biennial exhibition, part 1. So we have 2 parts to that. And it's basically, we have 3 jurors that select from the pool of artists, and it's only South Carolina artists that can enter. And they choose 24 artists. 12 are in the part 1 exhibition and 12 are in the second. So mark your calendars for August 21st, which is when the first exhibition will open. Lastly, if you're not on our newsletter list, please sign. There's a paper on the desk next to the zip code sheet. Please sign up so that you can find out about more things that we're doing here. So maybe you found out about this from the newsletter, but if you didn't, sign up, okay? Thank you, everybody, and without further ado, Rashad Glover and Dr. Nancy Tolson.
So, I'm so impressed with anybody who has moved the PDF page. Rashad, you have one. And I looked on and said, oh, I know all these things. So that was great. You know, it's funny when people do these, you know, they speak so intellectual and talk about, oh, I need to blah, 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 blah. But a lot of times people just really want to know you and what you're about. One of the things I'm thrilled about is that he loves his family. And that is really so important to me because I love my family. And he's also a triplet, which I love. I love that he's a triplet. And that his mother was pregnant 3 times and had 6 children. She's my superhero. And I think that's wonderful. He has a set of twins and 1 single birth. And I think that is just absolutely beautiful. And that basically has made you who you are. And now I understand some of the things I'm reflecting on when we talk about women empowerment, when we look at the high envelope that I'm so blessed to have one of those pieces of the high. And also the the whole idea of family. So do you want to talk a little bit about art and family?
Yes, definitely. And thank you. And thank you everyone for being here on your busy schedule. Family is very important to me, and when I make my work, that's the main thing that I think about. I think it's about my family group household merits, and that's mainly just how I was raised and how I was trained to respect others and being in uplift and nourish others as well. And I try to have my artwork reflect that, and I usually use nature and geometry to express myself when it comes to it.
And I'm also thinking about, and I look upon your art and I know that a lot of it does pertain to nature, flowers, and even encapsulating your wife in your work. And if you notice some of his work on this side, there's a little bit of Japanese inside of the art. If you tilt your head. And I love that because it says that it's placed there for a reason and for love. And I love the way that all of this reflects. What is it about the reflective art that you do in your work? Why do you do it? How did you pick this up? What attracted you to it?
The format is an impeccable style, and I was attracted to it when I was a child, and I used to have my favorite caramel popcorn, and it had these little prizes inside, and one of them was a small impeccable. And then I went to school, and I noticed one of my classmates was making these large format impeccable. And I was like, wow, I was interested in that. And years went by, and I did research on artisans that could make large format spectaculars, and I couldn't find nothing. And then probably in 2021, I was in church, and I pulled out my phone and
In church.
yeah, well,
We're gonna pray for that.
yes, some faults, but God was speaking to me, and I Googled impeccators, and I found an artisan that specialized in large format impeccators, and I knew this was a new journey I was going on. So the person I felt safest with when it came to family and culture was my wife, and she's Japanese. And so I was like, well, this is going to be a storytelling of her teaching me her language and me teaching her my language. And the flowers in here are from our courtship before we were married, and I wanted to kind of mark that as well.
You're so romantic. I do like that part a lot. Okay, wow. And it's kind of amazing, the combination of technology and digital with nature. So it is, and it's beautiful because it's soft, it's technical, it's tech, and I like that.
And just to chime in, my dad, he was the IT director at Denmark Technical College, and then he was the IT director at South Carolina State University, both HBCUs. And then we went to New Orleans, and he was the IT director at Xavier University. So the first Apple computer was in my home at a young age, and I've seen the computer progress over time, and so I always try to connect that back to my dad as well.
And I love the fact that you dedicate a piece of that in your art in the back, with the cube and that slash. Now, what's that slash mean?
That slash is a forward slash that they use in coding.
Yeah.
And so, like programming, computer coding, and I wanted to talk about that, the idea of like pushing yourself to go forward, being innovative, like to the future, and it marks that moment. However, there are purposes of my mom, not in these pieces, but I'm just going to go here. And this piece here, we have this area this is for about 4 feet. This area is beeswax, but this forward slash glows in the dark. And my mother was an amateur artist, and she loved using glow in the dark paint, so I kind of go back into that as well.
Okay, it's always nice to touch on family and holding your foundation. So your art is your foundation of your family, which is beautiful. And the whole thing with the beeswax, you want to tell them about the beeswax and the complications with beeswax?
Yes, I use beeswax to tell a story about, I use beeswax to use flowers, and again, women empowerment, play off the words, sort of like the queen bee, almost in a way. And
we're not talking about Beyonce. This is before this.
Yeah. And how we revolve around the queen bee. But beeswax can also be very toxic after it's heated over a certain type of temperature. So I took a break from that, and I'm all about sustainability until I get a better studio with better ventilation, before I can go back and visit it. And with this piece here, I also, instead of using wood at the time, I use hemp fiberboard. And hemp is another alternative for wood for sustainability also.
Yeah. And I just realized you have this high-tech on this side of art, beautiful art. And then on the other side, if you haven't been on the other side, it's basically beautiful nature and home. So it's reflective of South Carolina. You have the beautiful trees. One is St. Helena.
Yeah.
Edisto.
Edison.
Edisto, and the other one is Penn.
Yeah, Penn.
And so you want to talk about one of the things I learned was what you call, and I'm not from South Carolina, so I need to say that disclaimer. And so when I got here, I was always fascinated with the trees and the stuff that comes down on the trees. And so it's called tree hair.
The Native Americans call it tree hair, whereas to the Native American term is okla. I probably butchered the name, but that was the original name. And then over time, it translated to French moss, then to Spanish moss, and stuff like that. And the mirror piece is of, again, tree hair that I use and that I play with, because it reminds me of home. And as for these studies, these grayscale photographic studies on the other side of the wall, they will look like this in the future. Whereas to you have a matting around it, and the small ones look like this, and the big ones would turn into mirrors. So that's something that I like to play with. And I haven't worked with figures since high school, and I always wanted to work with figure in my work, but I didn't want to be biased, so I was like, I want my figure to talk about cultural excellence and show many cultures, and that's when the mirror came into play. Whereas once the figure goes looks at the mirror, you have a female, you have an Asian, you have an Indian, you have a Caucasian, so I like to play upon ideas like that too.
Yeah, and I also like the fact that you talk about this is a study. So part of this is a study, and what we don't get a lot of times, and me being a docent, you're just getting the finished product. And you almost think like you just put it in, microwave it, and it comes out, and you've got a art piece, and it's so beautiful. But it takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of work, and there's a lot of effort. And this is showing a study, and I also like what you've done, and you've kept the floor to show the teaching that you're doing in the class. But I like the back because it's all these different photos of nature that I would like to snatch out and just take home with me. Because they for me, they feel so peaceful. But all this is part of nature, which you reflected. But on the other side, it reflects the black and white. And it's not cold, it's warm to me. what Rashad said was he just went there in the area and just started taking pictures, just started taking photos. And it's amazing what you find afterwards once they're printed out.
Yes, it's like I let the space, the nature speak to me, but also like a freestyle. Where I just go in and get my camera. Don't think too much, because I mean, back in the day when we had film, we had 35 shots, so we had to actually think about what we're gonna take. But with digital, just shoot hundreds. And then when I go back to the studio and choose 100, okay, this speaks to me, this speaks to me, that don't speak to me, this speaks to me.
Yeah.
Maybe it don't speak to me now, but in the future I probably will. Because I probably don't understand it now, but in the future I probably will. And that's how I come up with the pieces.
And you spoke about the olden days when we had film.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of you all remember when we had film, right? You take it, you go to the drugstore to get it.
Yeah.
You know, we wait a couple of days or sometimes it's 2 weeks.
And the funny part is, when I had e-produce an hour, I was like, oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Okay, so look at technology, it's just been so amazing. Then we have on the other side also, one of my favorites is I like natural paper. I love the making of paper. I remember my dissertation, which was in the olden days too. We had to have it printed out. Remember that thing? Had to print it out and have it on, I don't know if yours was on cloth paper. Did we talk about this before? We had it on cotton paper. You had to buy it. It was pretty expensive. And that was a lot of pressure, right? And the paper to me was just so, I have a thing about paper. I am a paper addict. So I love paper, but when it's made and pressed, and you have these beautiful pressed paper, made paper with flowers. So you want to talk about the other side of this, about those pieces, because I love those pieces.
Yeah. Thank you. Every time I make a new series, I try to have a yin and yang. Whereas to some stuff is strictly, I would say 90% sustainable, and then some stuff is more of a hybrid. And when I was working on this series, I was like, well, I have a lot of big work, and a lot of my audience can't afford the big work. And maybe I should think about small, but I don't want to produce a lot of small pieces that are hybrids or toxic, you know. So I want to produce, if they can afford a small piece that talks about sustainability and talks about women empowerment, then this is something that I want the audience to purchase that's a small piece. And so I did research, but well, first of all, I have to start with paper, because paper is one of the best sustainable pieces out there. And then I was like, it has to be handmade. And then I was like, but it just can't be regular handmade paper. I want to use fresh flowers, but I want the flowers to be embedded in the paper too. And believe it or not, these flowers, when I was working with it, and my senior strategist, Muhammad, was working with it, part of my team, we realized that the flowers are very fragile. And that reminded me of hue pigment. When you get the flower, you grind it up, and it turns into a painter's pigment. And so that's when I realized that, so I gotta treat these flowers like paint and become sort of like a Romeo Bearden collage almost in a way. And so that was something. And the piece that you said you love, the series you love working on, this is all new to me. I never explored this, never went to this. And when I came into the 701 residency, I was like, I want to try something new. I want to make mistakes. I want to learn and not try to make something that I have been doing for a while.
Yeah, and that's the great thing that we're seeing here. Artists in residence, but an artist in residence that's working, that's discovering, and you're learning, and so are the rest of the people that are here with you. to do this. That's pretty delicate. And you've made it
And
into...
vulnerable a little bit too.
Exactly, very vulnerable. And also you've made it into the hive, which of course, the flowers, the hive. And I asked if they were, where the flowers came from. And you had it from Western Mass, which I love. He's in Western Mass, but we lived in Western Mass for about 7 years. And so, you know, I don't know if the leaf is part of the Western Mass part, but I'm hoping it is. But and then you said from other places in the world, and then local, right?
Yes, we do.
And that says how you think of it. And today I was having a conversation about what is home. And I want to ask you that because as an artist and what's reflected in your art, tell me, what is home to you?
Home, that's a good question. Thank you for asking that. I was telling my wife before I came down to 701 residency. I was like, oh yeah, I'm about to go home. And she was like, so Shad, this is home. And I was like, if I go back to South Carolina, I want to go home. You know, I don't want to be in a place that I don't know. That doesn't feel like home. So it goes back to that old folklore or that old tale that home is where you make it.
Yes.
And that is something that I try to, wherever I go, try to do that. And in my artist statement, you know, this cultural excellence, this root household merits, everybody has it. It might be subconsciously or consciously. And I try to harbor that energy and put that back into the work.
Yeah. And that's actually the correct answer. That's what we came up today. It's where you are or when you make it. And it is. It's really a strong thing. And you've been so many places. Talking about New Orleans. What did you pick up from New Orleans?
New Orleans, I was trained by Nick Off the Genius Award sculptor and printmaker John T. Scott. He was at Xavier in New Orleans. And I went to New Orleans for creative arts for high school. But also another Yale alumni, Ron Bechet. He's a painter. I was trained by him as well. And just the culture, the music, and we all know the good food, you know. So, and it's a beautiful thing. You see the Native American Indians. You see the French. You see so many different heavy culture over there. And the art scene is very strong too. So that's what I really learned and picked up. When I was in New Orleans, I used to work at a center similar to this. I was an art handler at the Contemporary Art Center in New Orleans. Being in that museum environment is something that I'm always drawn to as well.
Okay. Now, you spent a long time here.
Yes, I was raised in South Carolina.
Right, back and forth. And it's funny, and Wikipedia told me.
All is not true.
Right, I know. But you were born in Germany.
Yes, I was born in Heidelberg, Germany. The triplets were born in Germany.
Okay.
My parents were in the military, the army to be exact. So I barely remember. I left Germany when I was 1, but I do want to make plans to go back and visit it as well.
Okay. So now we're in South Carolina. What did you absorb from South Carolina?
Ooh. Well, a lot. And the older I get, the more I learn. St. Helena, where my great-grandma, somewhere on the island up there, she was a midwife, and she delivered over 2,000 babies. Brian Gumbo interviewed her in the Today Show. But the underground name of St. Helena, what the locals call it, was Frogmore. And then I'm like, is that where Frogmore stew came from? And it's like, yes, that's where Frogmore stew came from. And so I was like, whoa. So that point, and then I went to elementary school in Denmark, South Carolina. Just that area, that land, the dogwood trees, and I grew up on a farm in Denmark, South Carolina. A cow farm in the backyard, and cow dung everywhere, and the cows used to get loose, and my mom used to bring us into the house. So I experienced that, and then I grew up in Orangeburg and also Boneville, South Carolina, and went to OW and areas like that. So, and the homecoming games as well. So, and then my family union's coming up, and a lot of my family history is in the wetlands and the low country. South Carolina holds a lot of history, and I believe there's just some movie that talks about South Carolina, other than the Gullah culture. That's one of them. This one is with Queen Latifah, Alicia Keys.
Honey something?
Queen Latifah was making.
I know the movie. Yeah.
In the movie, she was making honey.
I was research.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Marcel. Junior Marcel is also another resident here at 701 in the studio. Please see him. But yeah, so I also taught in Arkansas and Louisiana, that whole area. So just the different styles and the culture of the different styles, and going to Arkansas, living in Louisiana, or teaching in Arkansas, living in Louisiana, but being raised in South Carolina, I didn't know that. Different spirits, yeah, I couldn't say it better myself. And it made me appreciate South Carolina even more. Yeah. Even when I'm up in Western Massachusetts, coming back to South, I was like, I'm in South Carolina, I'm like, I can't wait to go back to the East Coast. But now when I'm on the East Coast, I'm like, I can't wait to come back to South Carolina. You don't miss it till you're gone, you know? And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
We figured out that movie, she figured it out, The Secret Life of Bees.
Secret Life of Bees, yeah. That takes place in South Carolina also. And so that's one of my favorites.
Yeah. Secret Life of Bees. The irony? Okay, The Secret Life of Bees. There you go. Right. And there is a different culture, visiting southern states. Even North Carolina and South Carolina. And you went to the governor's school, and that was a boarding school.
That was governor's school at the time when I went. It was a summer residency program.
Okay.
Whereas it was on Furman University campus.
Oh.
We had dorms and stuff like that.
Okay.
And I was there for the summertime. And I was in high school at the time. So it was my first time being in dorms, and so you might not hear good stories. I was totally acting up.
Okay.
But I made some great artwork. I learned a lot of that. My aunt and my family also live in North Carolina, so seeing that change, and so it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. I was going to say, Yale. Let's talk about your time at Yale and how you developed and what you developed and what was new.
Yale was, being from Denmark, South Carolina, a very small town in South Carolina, and going to a place where you wake up every morning, and before cars were in vogue, you had to use your ID, and you scan your card, and you walk into this big castle, because Yale is nothing but architectural castles. So I wanted to absorb and learn. So I barely got sleep because I wanted to take everything in for the 2 years that I was there. We had open studios. We had galleries from New York. I had a chance to show an armory show under the Tilton Gallery. It opened up a lot, and also it exposed a lot to the high-end art world. So it was a lot to take in.
Yeah.
But I feel I discovered my voice comfortably when I was in Museum School of Fine Arts at Tufts. I was also trained by another MacArthur Genius Award winner. She won it 2 years ago, Mary Magdalena Compass Palms. and she wrote my recommendation to go to Yale. And I worked in the studio, and I did performance art at the time. I did painting. I worked in the computer lab. So there's a lot that I learned from museum school, excuse me, and from Xavier in New Orleans that prepared me for the Yale project.
Okay. So Massachusetts wasn't a stranger to you.
That's correct.
And so now we're at Holyoke.
Yes.
And Holyoke is, I love Western Mass.
Me too.
Yeah, it's just something about it. In the fall, it's just out of sight. It's one of the most picturesque places you can ever go, really. I'm not being biased. I'm just telling you the facts. I've never seen something so beautiful. But now you're at Holyoke. And Holyoke's such a cute, quaint place, isn't it?
Well, I live in East Hampton,
Okay.
but I teach in Holyoke.
Holyoke.
Yes.
Now, there used to be these paper factories,
Mhm.
you know, and I've always been irony of that too, now that I'm thinking about it, because they used to do some real bad smelling
Yeah.
because of the paper. But, okay, so now you're at Holyoke, you're teaching. What have you learned through your teaching?
Well, this is my second time teaching at a PWI, Predominantly White Institution. When I was in Arkansas, I had a PWI.
Okay.
And in South Carolina, I taught at HBCU at Claflin and also at South Carolina State. And so, gone to, and Holyoke Community College, we call it HCC, they I think they have around 40% like Latinx, Latinx. So it's a new experience. I'm learning a lot. They love me over there. Whereas that's surprising.
Right.
It's humbling to be in that environment. They work very hard. I don't like talking about politics in public, but they're very liberal. And so I find that quite interesting based off of communication and talking and sharing. But I've been there for going on 3 years now, so still kind of fresh. I guess they call it a junior. It's a beautiful environment, and my wife, she loves it too. So.
And so you've evolved in your work, starting with what, and now you're here.
Where am I? That's a good question, Nancy. I think that most of my work was based off of research and studies, and footage.
Okay.
But now I feel myself making a synergy and going into the field. It's like the moss pieces; those were taken in my studio. I brought a whole lot of moss and just started taking Photoshop. But now I'm going into the field, going into the land, and doing documentation. And instead of just being in my studio all the time. And I find that to be that energy, that spiritual energy that's there. I mean, I don't know. I don't, like those photos, I'm like, I did that? You know, and I'm like, you know, in the studio, I'm like, okay, I can see how I did that. But when the landscape speaks to you, it changes. It's the same thing that goes with the flowers I use, the pressed flowers that I use. Using my hand again. Some works is made on a computer, some works are using their hand. And the unpredictability of that. Back in the day, back in early 2000s, you had artists like Kara Walker and Takashi Murakami, this super flat type of theory. But now it seems like we are trying to get back to texture and not hiding the hand. And I enjoy that, and I don't want that to go away. And so that's something that I'm to learn more.
Oh, I like that. more texture. Yeah, I think Carol Walker with the cutouts.
Those are more super flat.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, but that big baby that she did,
The sugar baby, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful work. And her drawings her ink drawings are also more of the hand, and you see the brush strokes and stuff like that also.
That's good. So tell me your top 5 artists right now.
Oh, geez Louise.
Oh, well, you need to tell.
That's true. Okay, let me see if I can bounce this out. Okay, Lorna Simpson. You remember Lorna Simpson?
Oh, yeah.
Lorna Simpson, she's one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have David Hammonds. Of course, he's in the books.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have Georgia O'Keeffe.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a big fan of her.
Mm-hmm.
How many is that? That's 3? Okay, I got 2 more to go. And I ask people this all the time. Let's see. I work with assemblage a lot in my work.
Okay.
Work on rocking chairs. That's going to be an assemblage piece. So I would have to add Betty Starr into that.
Oh, wow.
And I don't even know if you know the heat between Betty Starr and Carol Walker when it first started out.
No.
I'm not going to talk about. I'm not going to gossip.
Oh.
We're going to be live. But I'll talk about that after this conversation. But Betty Starr, so that's 4. And probably the last one. Oh yeah, of course. Elizabeth Kaplan.
Oh.
Yes, Elizabeth Kaplan.
And you named everybody that I know. So I feel really good about that. But, yeah, and women.
Well, I tell my students this, because I think that sometimes, when we talk about cultures and ethnicity, it can be a trigger for some people.
Oh, okay.
But when it comes to women, I like to start with that first because I do believe like sexism is a pandemic going on. You know, it's a mental illness. Even I'm affected by it too a little bit, and I try to put that back, the importance of it in my work, and the originators of it in my work. I'm still learning, but if it's consciously or if it's subliminal, I feel like that is something that I always need to lead with, just the importance of it and how much they built and shaped history in all cultures. But I do feel like when I was younger, I didn't really understand that. But the older I get, just the history behind it, based off of family and based off of mentors, I'm like, it's unfair and we're not.
Recognize.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And that opens the door to other cultures that are not being recognized. For me, Western Massachusetts is very strong in feminism and femininity. I think my school is probably community college is probably 7% women. So my goal was to tread lightly, speak softly, but also speak loudly at the same time.
There you go. And you mentioned 5 powerful women that really step up to the plate, really. Georgia O'Keeffe with the connections, like the South Carolina, are kind of amazing. And did Elizabeth Catlett teach at Xavier?
Elizabeth Catlett taught at Dillon
At
University.
Dillon, right. So yeah, you really touched on some very powerful women artists that are still very monumental to the arts. So that was really good. Do you have anything else that you want to talk about the 5 men artists that you
That didn't make you male artist?
No.
David Hammond.
Oh, David Hammond. Thank you.
I'm about to say, hold up now.
Yeah.
But if it was males, you have Marcel Duchamp. You have Charles White. And you knew that Charles White was American. Yeah, and we saved that for another.
I know all that.
Charles White, Roman Bergen, and then you have artists like contemporary now. Sometimes Robert Costa. Yeah, sometimes Robert Costa. He reminds me of things that are quite important. I think he did a piece called George Washington Crossing in Delaware, but it was of blackface individuals.
Is George Washington Carver?
That was George Washington Carver. Thank you, Michaela. Thank you so much. I think that's also very important. I'm gonna be making a lot of mistakes here now.
Yeah, but that's really good though. Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm trying to check the time. We're going to take questions.
That'd be great.
Okay, so we have a little more than 15, just a little over 15 minutes to ask questions from the audience. If anyone has a question, yes.
Yeah, well, I haven't really any questions, but it's great to see so much of your work in here and feel honored to see the process as well. But even though you left South Carolina when you were still in high school, you were back here for like a decade though.
Yes.
You were teaching, right? And that was just, you moved away like 3 years ago, right?
Yes.
So, can you talk about your time here during that time? I just moved back after being away for 10 years, so I missed you. So I'm glad you're here now. But can you talk about your time and working at Claflin, which I'm very familiar with, and the artists you interacted here during that time, and what you saw that you liked, what you saw you didn't like, relationships you developed? That is a big question, but take whatever part of you feel like.
It's a great question. When I came back to South Carolina, my eyes were more open. When I was a child, my eyes were more blind. And I had a chance to learn about the artists here. When I was at OW, in high school, I was trained by artist Alvin Stelly. But when I went to Claflin, I learned about Leo Twiggs, Business Studio a couple of times. Arthur Rogers.
Arthur Rose.
Arthur Rose, thank you.
Jonathan
Learned about
Green.
Arthur Rose as well. Met my colleague, Dr. Bailey, who's also an artist, and I also purchased one of her work, and then also artist and director of 701 Tablets of Art as well. And I was on the board of Orangeburg County Fine Arts Center as well. So, and Columbia Museum of Art at AAAC. So I really dove into the community and learned a lot about the area and the history. And I began to appreciate it a lot more. And I wanted to share that with the world. I didn't want to gatekeep nothing. I was like, y'all know about this? Yeah, I just see this. But just the nourishment and the I don't want to say hospitality. Well, I would say hospitality. I'm not gonna say Southern hospitality. I think it has some context behind it. But the hospitality here is so strong, and I feel like that needs to be shared. So even though I'm in Western Mass, I'm still networking back and forth. It's sort of like flying from New York to LA all the time. So and my family is still here. Family reunions are here. So I'm always coming back here, sampling, borrowing, stealing ideas, and then bringing it back to the East Coast, and then sharing it with my gallery that represents me in Charleston. Just trying to spread the word of the education that South Carolina has to offer.
Thank you.
Yes.
You mentioned the freedom that you felt taking photographs with a digital camera. And this is something I wrestled with myself. I wonder if it isn't also a handicap.
Yes.
Because film forces you to really pay attention to what you're doing, to plot your shot, and to really get it inside the frame. So there is this freedom that you feel and this ability to use improvisation, right, to just be on the spot. But if you take 1,000 shots, you're gonna get lucky a couple times. So, for me, it feels like I have to create challenges for myself. So what are some of the challenges that you create for yourself? What are the problems that you're solving when you're out with your camera?
That's a good question. First, I will map the places where I want to use the camera. And then I strongly believe in working intuitively, because, or like an improv comic or improv actor, because I feel like there's something there, whereas the more you do it, the more you understand your rhythm, and then it can become repetitive, but then I can grow from it also. But even though I use the digital camera, I'm not knocking the film. I will pick up a film camera also. I do feel that analog is definitely very important too. But even when I choose the color for these, I really don't make a sketch sometimes of the color. However, I will probably get a computer, and it's like the digital camera, you take 1,000 shots. On the computer, I use 1,000 colors, and then like, okay, that's the color that I want. Whereas if I had a sketchbook, making 1,000 colors is I'd be like, wait a minute, I spent all that time on that, this is just gonna be awkward, So, and if it was film, if I shot, I think it was 35 shots, I might be wrong, or more, I would be like, oh, I gotta show all of them now, But if it's a high number, then I feel like I could save some for myself and then come back to it later. But I do appreciate the analog definitely. I definitely think it is important. And a hybrid between the both, I feel, is also important too. Did that answer your question?
Anyone else?
This might be a little good, but I'm going to ask it anyhow. You had a dramatic shift in your personal relationship to necessity and time that's allowed you to change your work process. In terms of shifting from conceptual to more intuitive, how have you utilized that change in your work? I mean, or is that responsible for the change in your work?
And is it Ed?
Yeah.
I didn't notice you. Hey, I didn't got to be there. I didn't notice you there. It's good to see you. There's this word floating around called spectrum. My favorite values are black and white or gray. But then there's the color spectrum. You could be in green land, or you could be in orange land, or you could be in red land. So when I make art pieces, I like to think like I'm warp speeding to different spectrums, different worlds in myself. And a Star Trek phrase, of course. And so with that, I like to, that's why I call them series, I guess. I will make 10 to 20 pieces, and then I'd be like, okay, I've been there. I can go back and revisit it, but I want to see what another moment feels like. That, or I want to say, I want to see if I still got it. Can I make a new album that doesn't reflect my previous album, but it's a lot stronger, or it's a different world, and so, but it's still me, and so, but I don't force myself, for lack of a better term, to jump from different spectrums. It's just usually I get tired very quickly, and I'm like, okay, I had enough of that world or that moment. Let me see what this part of the DNA is saying. Or let me see what this is saying. Or let me see what this is saying. Let me explore here, explore there. And that's what I like to do. But however, the photography work here, I do go back and revisit. I do go back and revisit photography work. I am going to go back and revisit the mirror pieces, and they become like tennis, almost in a way, whereas I'm on one side working on this piece or this series, and then jump to this series, and that previous series is telling me what to do or what not to do, if that makes sense. It's a little abstract, but that makes sense.
But that's what you do. So it's okay. You just defined yourself. Wow. That's so good.
Oh, yes.
My question is a little wordy as I'm trying to also build it out, but I think that sometimes in the seasons of journey, like we might have different people, different books, different ancestors that might speak to us loudly during that particular season. And I'm curious about in this season of your life, in your journey in creation, what may be loud for you? Are there songs? Are there books? Are there quotes? Are there ancestors or influence in that way? And who or what is that right now for you?
That's a good question. I'm 40-something, I might be the exact, but I'm 40-ish. And at that age, you begin to see more depth, from close ones to your eyes and ears open up to the world. And with that, sometimes we get in our place, but experiencing this, I realized I like to call it signals. Sort of like, there's a zombie apocalypse, and you turn the radio, and then you search through the radio, and then you're like, there's a campsite here, there's a signal coming out. And so, so I'm like, if I'm working, I would see something, I would hear something, and it would remind me of close ones or ancestral ones or something I see on TV. And it's a signal. And I would either get my notebook, write it down, or take a mental picture, because it always happens. It's like, people like, it's like blessings, like blessings don't come every day. Blessings come every millisecond, And so does signals of creativity and positivity. And so I try to capture those signals visually, and that's how I usually work with that. But when it comes to ancestral, we've been, let me say this, we've been around for thousands, if not more than that, hundreds of thousands of years, our family, from every culture, from every animal, from every tree. And there are some cultures or families who've been wiped off the face of the earth, and their history line stops right there. But we're still here. And I think that is very important. And that is something that these moments we have with nature family, people, community, like, hey, you remind me something thousands of years ago, you know, or our nicks in our text, like a scratch here. And that's what your great uncle used to do, right? You know, so it's like, you know, so I find that very important. And sometimes I feel that nature holds that story too. And that's why I feel when it comes to the figure, it can be a little challenging for me. But again, when I do the mirror pieces, it kind of, when you look in the mirror, you see your mom, you see your dad, you see your ancestors. And I think that is very important and it's not said enough.
Any last 2-minute words?
Well, it's been a pleasure having y'all here. Hope I didn't say too much. It's always, it's a great crowd. It's always good to see people still appreciate the arts and, no matter, hopefully, no matter how long it lasts. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world where I see the arts are not cherished enough, and it's nice to see that the support is there. And my thing is share, sample, steal, and keep on providing visual stimulus to the community. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you, everybody. If you want to look around at what Rashad's been doing in here, feel free. We're going to turn the lights up, so visit for a bit if you'd like.
This was
Yeah,
Okay.